Hello, everyone, and welcome to Buy Bags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Horror Heaven77, and right now we're doing our label week. And this week we're doing the Vestron series collection, courtesy of Lionsgate. And the movie I'm reviewing is from 1986. I'm sure you already know which one I'm talking about because you've seen the title of the video. And the movie that I'm talking about is none other than Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive. This is, just to give you the short of it. I know I tend to have some verbal diarrhea in my videos, and I'm going to really try to hold back on that, but I can't promise anything. But because just when it comes to this movie, there's just so much I want to say about it, but I'm going to do my absolute best not to drag this on forever. So this movie here is Stephen King. Unfortunately, his one and only shot at directing a movie. He was working with the Dino De Laurentiis and the De Laurentiis group, and they were producing a number of his films back in the 80s. They were producing like Silver Bullet, Cat's Eye, many others. And yeah, so they finally gave King his chance to direct a movie. And so King decided, sorry, he decided he wanted to direct a movie adaptation of his short story Trucks from Night Shift. Now, the story premise isn't all that bad. Well, it's not bad at all, really, but it's pretty fantastical. And I think that was one of the things that didn't really help this movie when it first came out. The story basically is that there's kind of a meteor called the Rhea Pearl. Oh my God. Never mind. Moving on. Anyway, this meteor, breaks off, covers the earth, and then for a total of 7 days, basically all the electrical equipment, vehicles, airplanes, you name it, anything that runs on pretty much like batteries or, electricity or anything like that comes to life and kills people. And we get some good fun scenes in this movie because of that. And we have this group of kind of a ragtag group of survivors led by Billy, who's played by Emilio Estevez, who I remember reading at one point that apparently King wanted Bruce Springsteen to play the lead role in the movie. But, at the time, of course, 1986, this is when the Brat Pack was really big. And so pretty much everybody wanted, anybody who was in the Brat Pack, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, Molly Ringwald, Judd Nelson, Anthony Michael Hall, all those, Rob Lowe, all those guys, they were the ones you wanted to try to get into your movie because you wanted to try to sell your movie. So apparently King was overruled on that, and he ended up casting Emilio Estevez. And so anyway, so we find out that, Billy he's a former, he's pretty much out on parole. He's a former criminal. They don't really go into any detail about what he did that ended up getting him in jail or anything like that. But he's working for this guy, Bubba Hendershot, played by the late great Pat Hingle, who everybody's going to probably also remember as Commissioner Gordon in the Tim Burton Batman movies and the Joel Schumacher Batman movies. But anyway, so we find out that Hendershot is basically, he's got this thing where he likes to hire people who are on parole, people who have criminal past. And then once he gives them a job, basically he's got kind of like almost something of like a slave trade going on in the Dixie Boy truck stop, where he makes them work hours, but he doesn't pay them for it. Pretty much kind of steals their time off and everything else, kind of just overworks them. Like I said, it's almost like a sweatshop kind of a situation. So anyway, a little bit of a slow burn at first, but then we start. Well, no, actually, I take that back, because at the beginning of the movie, we have the great song "Who Made Who" by AC/DC, which, by the way, one thing I love about this movie and a lot of 80s horror movies, had great movie soundtracks. Just some of the best. I mean, my God, think about it. I mean, there was this movie, the music by AC/DC is just off the hook, man. I mean, this is absolutely one of the best 80s soundtracks I can think of. Not to mention too, the Lost Boys soundtrack, that was fantastic. Fright Night soundtrack was great. What else was there? Return of the Living Dead, who can forget that one? Hell, even Witchboard. I listened to that song, Bump in the Night. in Witchboard, that song gets stuck in my head forever. It never gets out. Just that was one of the things. We really had some of the 80s horror movies just had some of the best soundtracks, and this movie is no exception. This one definitely has one of the greatest, 80s movie soundtracks, and it's all by AC/DC. And not only did they do the songs, but they also did, they composed the music for the film as well. So yeah, just the music is an absolute steal. But anyway, so at the beginning of the movie, we start to see that things are really starting to go awry. There's a part at a drawbridge where the drawbridge is opening up, and but it's the barriers don't go down, no lights, no anything like that. So you got all these trucks and cars are all parked on this drawbridge, and they're all going up, and it's just a complete massacre. People going through windshields, people getting beheaded, all this other kind of stuff. And one lady actually in a car, it's kind of like her and the guy that she's with, they're dressed up like tennis pros. That was actually Marla Maples, who I don't know if anybody remember, like way back in the day. It's like, was she married to Trump, or she date Trump or something like that? I don't remember exactly or she just have an affair with, I don't remember. But anyway, it's Marla Maples, if you remember her from way back in the day. So so yeah, and even at one point there's a van with AC/DC on the side, and I don't know if that was, I'm sorry, I know somebody's going to call me an idiot for this, but I don't know if that was actually supposed to be the band making a cameo, because it didn't look like them, or if that they were just supposed to be like roadies for AC/DC. But anyway, there's this complete massacre on this drawbridge, people just getting just crushed and just, mutilated beyond belief and everything else. So then we get introduced to our big main truck here, the Green Goblin truck, which, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, especially if you're a horror fan, I don't think even if you've even seen this movie, that truck. When you see that truck, you get an idea where that truck comes from. But anyway, so, the truck pulls into the parking lot of the Dixie Boy truck stop, and just, things start going really bad. Like at one point, this guy Duncan, he's, trying to fill it up with diesel, but like I said, all the machinery starts going wonky. And so, he does the most intelligent thing anybody would do. He takes the diesel nozzle, holds it right up where he's looking right at it. And of course he gets a face full of diesel. And so, it turns out, he's got diesel in his eyes. He can hardly see. And then we get introduced to another main character, and we're introduced to our main character, Billy, Emilio Estevez. And we find out what's going on with him. Then let's see here. What else do we get? We get Duncan's son, Deke, played by Halter Graham. Let's see. He's at a softball game. They win the game and everything else. And it's weird because they win the game, but the coach doesn't seem like he's particularly thrilled with it. And so he's like, hey, everybody, sodas, I'm buying. So he goes and he's trying to get sodas out of the vending machine, and then the soda cans fly out, and first poor guy gets hit right in the gotchas, and then he gets hit in the stomach, then one smashes him right in the head, and then basically like a launcher, almost like a rocket launcher, this thing's shooting out Coke cans at tremendous speed, and it's like taking a couple of these kids down and stuff. And so Deke, trying to help everybody out, he's trying to get away. We get to probably, I think you probably say, the most graphic scene in the whole movie. And from what I understand, it's from the bonus features, but even just stuff I've heard before I've even seen any of the bonus features on here. We get to what was probably the most graphic scene in the movie, and then they had to tone it down because it was just way too gory and way too graphic. One kid flips off of his bike, and then the steamroller comes up, and just, you see this little kid just get crushed underneath it. It's very graphic and gory and stuff, but from my understanding, that was the toned down version. So then we get introduced to our female lead of the movie, who, I think Billy, he calls her mother's helper. And so anyway, she's, hitchhiking, and she's with this guy who's a Bible salesman. And of course, Keen's got to play into that thing, which he does in so many of his stories, about somebody who is basically saying that they work for the Lord, somebody who is, supposed to be religious, or, somebody who's supposed to be, a man of God, basically just being a creep or a hypocrite, or just being downright evil. I mean, it's a theme that we've seen King do many, many times in his books and his short stories. I mean, we've seen, like we find out, like, hopefully nobody who's watching this hasn't seen it, but we find out, like, in Silver Bullet, we find out that, the Reverend is the werewolf, and then, other stories too, where we find out, that people who are supposed to be on the side of good end up being just horrible, horrible people. And we find out in this, because as the Bible salesman, he's giving the girl a ride, but he keeps, like, putting his hands over her, and, she keeps, like, pushing his hand off and everything else. And finally, and she's, like, trying to listen to the radio, trying to find out what's going on, because stuff is really weird. But the Bible salesman is just more interested in just trying to put his hands all over this beautiful girl in his car. And so, she hears that, yeah, stuff's really bad. You need to find some place and get to safety. And so, she yanks his steering wheel, pulls him into the truck stop. And so, and when they get in there, and he's, like, just going on and on, raising hell with her about how she's such an ungrateful woman because, he gave her a ride and everything else. And, and it's just kind of like another way to say he's pissed off because she don't want to put out. But at the same time, our famous truck here just gets tired of listening to this guy go on, and you see it's turning on by itself and nearly runs the guy over. So Emilio Estevez goes out to investigate. At first it doesn't seem like anything's wrong, but then things really start picking up, and the trucks, they start coming to life, and they start circling around and around the truck stop, trying to keep everybody from leaving. And then we're introduced to another couple. I forget who's the actor. I think it says his name. Let's see here. Yeah, John Short and Yeardley Smith, who at the time, I don't know if this movie actually helped Yeardley Smith in her career. Might have, but at the time, Yeardley Smith was just an actress who, she got like minor roles in comedies. Like, she was in this, but then she had, like, a small role in, like, The Legend of Billie Jean, Heaven Help Us, different movies. But after this movie, 1986, I think it would only be maybe like 2-3 years later, that's when she would land her iconic role that really shot her to superstardom. And I'm sure you already know what I'm talking about. She became the voice of Lisa Simpson on The Simpsons. But, I'm not sure. She doesn't, unfortunately, it's on one of the bonus features on here, but she doesn't really say if, like, this really helped her land the role of Lisa Simpson or not. But anyway, so they try to there's a really cool scene, because they're trying to get to the truck stop, and they see that the trucks are circling all around. And so Curtis, he sees that there's a gap, so he's going to try to floor it, get his car in, see if he can get it through the gap and everything, get to the truck stop so they can get to safety. Doesn't work, because just as they're about to hit there, the truck comes up, clips the end of the back of the car, and the car flips over. So Emilio Estevez and Laura Harrington, they go out to get them out of the car. And of course, you got Yeardley Smith screaming and yelling and raising, and that tends to be a lot of what she does in the movie. But they get him out, they get him into the truck stop, everything is okay. But then we find out that our buddy Bubba Hendershot, Pat Hingle's character, he's got a grenade. He's got like a bazooka. He's got a bazooka. So he's in there, he's blowing up trucks with the bazooka and stuff like that. And so we find out that through Emilio Estevez's character, we find out that basically Bubba Hendershot has a little side hustle going on besides just running a truck stop. It turns out that he's buying and selling weapons, and he's got a stockpile of weapons in the basement of the truck stop. I know it sounds absurd, but So anyway, then we got Deke. He's doing his best trying to get to the truck stop. And, we see like at one point he sees an airplane that's flying by itself. He sees an ice cream truck that's just like caked with blood driving by itself. He sees, like he's driving through this neighborhood and just, people are just completely just massacred. One guy, you see he's got, got like his head's pretty much cut off with a chainsaw. Like a woman got strangled with her own hairdryer. I'm trying to remember what else. At one point, and unfortunately, this led to a bad accident in real life. At one point, he stops for a second, and then a lawnmower starts up. It starts coming at him. Well, there's a shot where the lawnmower is like coming right at the camera. Unfortunately, it didn't stop, and like it hit a board or something like, and chips flew up, and it caught the director of photography in the eye. So unfortunately, that was an unfortunate accident that happened in the movie. But anyway, so Deke is he's trying. He finds he's trying to get to the truck stop, and I think I better kind of cut this short. I'm going on way too long already. Eventually he does. And then they decide that they need to try to, they need to come up with a plan that they could try to get away from the truck stop before the trucks come in. And then the trucks basically use Morse code to signal that they need fuel, to keep going. So while they're basically like, while they're fueling the trucks, they're also, like trying to figure out a way to get out of the truck stop. And Emilio Estevez, his character, comes with an idea that they can ride to safety on a boat, go to an island, and they get to this island. There's no machinery, none of that stuff, and then they can just wait it out for the next few days. And then once the comet passes and everything goes back to normal, then they got nothing. They'll be fine. They got nothing to worry about. So anyway, so that's I'm sorry. I know I knew it. I knew I was going to talk too long about this. But anyway, I really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it very much when I first saw it. 1986, I would have been about 9 years old when I first saw this. But even though I shouldn't have seen it, but I did. And I really loved this movie. I loved it from the first time I saw it. I didn't really understand all the hate that it was getting. But it's like over the years, I've noticed that many, many more people have warmed up to it. Even people, when they first saw it way back in the day, said they hated it. Now they look at it with more fresh eyes, and they really enjoy this movie for what it is. I think one of the things that really didn't help it was at the time this movie came out, there was another Stephen King adaptation coming out. And this one here, and Stephen King did not help the situation himself. He would go quoting in Fangoria magazine that this was his moron movie. This was his Plan 9 from outer space. This was going to be his just stupid, shut your brain off, kind of movie. And so Stephen King didn't help this situation. And he hasn't helped the situation either. Unfortunately, he's never directed another movie, even though, you listen to some commentaries like on the Shining miniseries. He did some, like second, third unit work and stuff like that. But he's never directed another movie, sadly. Maybe if he just picked another one of his less fantastical stories or something and did a movie of that, he would have been fine. Of course, a lot of people have come out and said, well, the problem was, this is when he was all doing all that coke and stuff. So yeah, the problem with this movie is like King was coked out of his mind when he wrote this and made this movie and stuff. So, just all kinds of stuff. We've all heard the stories, I'm sure. But I enjoy this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. Okay, maybe it's not his most sophisticated story he's ever told. But going back to what I was saying, I think it didn't help was that at the time this is coming out, another Stephen King adaptation called Stand By Me was coming out. And I think when people watch Stand By Me and they see what a great story it is, the great writing that's in it, the fact that it was a beautiful movie directed by Rob Reiner, the cast was excellent, that the movie is almost a perfect film. I mean, that movie is nearly flawless. And then you look at this, and then people are all like, okay, there's no excuse. We know King can do better than this. So I think it was just a mix mash of all that stuff that didn't help the situation any. And, so unfortunately, Stephen King over the years has gone to disown this movie, which I think is a crime. So many bad things have happened to it. But, yeah, it is what it is. But over the years, I've noticed more and more people have gotten a better attitude towards this movie. People have really lightened up on this movie and given it a fair break. Unfortunately, Stephen King still disowns it, still thinks it's the worst thing he ever done. Even though in the trailer, that was one of the things people thought was kind of really amusing was in the trailer, you got Stephen King saying, I just want somebody, I didn't like all the movies that were made from my books or my stories. So I'm, if you want something right, you got to do it yourself. So he's like, I'm going to scare the hell out of you and all that. And meanwhile, we got, I think it was the soundtrack to Halloween 3, John Carpenter's score for Halloween 3. I think we got that playing in there. So anyway, but just over the years, it just, but I think, time has been kind to this movie. And I think over time, people have just, Even though it's not at the same level of King's best storytelling as like The Shining, Stand By Me, Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, Salem's Lot, any of those other ones. I think people have just kind of, taken this movie for what it is and realized, yeah, it is, it is a little bit of a quote unquote moron movie, but you know what? It's fun. The movie, it's fun. It's not particularly scary, but it's entertaining. It's got some suspenseful moments. You get some really good gore, all this kind of stuff. It's a fun blast to watch this movie. And that's ultimately the thing about it. And, the thing is, I was so glad that, come to find out Vestron was going to do this. I was so happy. I believe it was 2018 when we got this. And for whatever reason, I don't know. Vestron, they put this movie out and then they didn't do anything for like a couple of years. They just stopped. I think I want to say it had something to do with because the fact they were focusing on on their streaming service more, and they were kind of like trying to get away from the digital media thing. So they were trying to more focus on their streaming service. But I guess eventually they came back. And the thing that surprised me was this was the last one, and this baby was not cheap. I'm trying to remember. I think this was at least $30. I think this was between $30, $35 when this came out. And, and that was the last time, Vestron did that, because now we got the two newest releases, which was Little Monsters and Shivers. And those are dirt cheap. I mean, those are, very easily affordable. Whereas this was like the last of the Vestron collection where they, really, really just, really jacked up the price on this. So I'm hoping that we're going to get, I really am hoping that we're going to get many, many more selection from the Vestron collection. And hopefully we'll get them at that reduced price, not the $30, $35. But you know what? I still think that this was a good investment. I do remember some people, though, being like, and I could understand their trepidation. They didn't, at first, a lot of people didn't want to spring the money for this because, they realized there was going to be bonus features. And I remember videos, people, before it came out, people were saying, like, I don't want to buy this if all the bonus features are going to do is just, completely tear down the movie. If it's just everybody complaining about the movie, ripping it apart, crapping all over it. I think one of the things that didn't help was that Jonah Ray does a commentary on here. Jonah Ray, if you don't know, he ended up being, when Mystery Science Theater 3000 went to Netflix, Jonah Ray, he was the host of the show. So I think everybody thought he was going to Misty Maximum Overdrive. And I think a lot of people just didn't want to hear that. A lot of the fans, because like I said, this time has been kind to this movie and people have ultimately come to enjoy it. And even though it's not King's finest hour, people just really have fun with it. To some people, this is their favorite Stephen King movie. And they love everything about it. They love the fact that it's a fun movie. They love the AC/DC score. They love Emilio Estevez. And, just over time, this movie has, time has really softened up on this movie. And I'm glad to see we got this great edition. And we got some really good features, too. I just really wish that Stephen King would have... That's my biggest gripe, is that Stephen King did not come out and support this release. I really wish he could have come out and done a commentary, or at the very least do a good interview or something, kind of like looking back on it, seeing, like what his thoughts about it were then as opposed to today, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, what do we get? We get audio commentary with writer Tony Magistrale, author of Hollywood Stephen King. We get audio commentary with comedian Jonah Ray and Blumhouse film executive Ryan Turek. We get interviews. We get Truck Stop Tales, an interview with producer Martha De Laurentiis. Rage Against the Machines, an interview with actress Laura Harrington. Honeymoon Horrors, interviews with actor John Short and Yeardley Smith. Maximum Carnage, an interview with makeup effects creator Dean Gates. A Kid in King's Court, an interview with actor Holter Graham. The Wilmington Factor, a look back at the filming of Maximum Overdrive with members of the production crew in North Carolina. Who Made Who, an interview with Murray Engelhart, co-author of AC/DC, Maximum Rock and Soul, Goblin Resurrectus, the resurrection of the Happy Toys Goblin Truck, behind the scenes footage, still gallery, theatrical trailer, TV spot. So, I do understand at first that a lot of people did not like the idea of, buying this Blu-ray and then find out, all the bonus features, everybody just, taking the piss on this movie. But luckily, that's not what it is. You know, I mean, yeah, there are some people, but for the most part, everybody looks back on it with fond memories. And this is a good, solid release, and it looks really good. I know that I definitely know. Yeah, you know, I have to tell me. I do know that when it comes to Vestron collection, some of their their picture quality and sound quality has been hit and miss, but I do believe this one is very solid, a very solid 1080p presentation. And I'm just really glad that we have it. I'm glad this movie finally, as someone who's a fan of it when it first came out, and then just over the years hearing everybody bash this movie and trash this movie, and then finally seeing that, you know, it's getting some respect, that that there is love for it, that there is a fan base out there for it. I'm really glad to see that, you know, it's now gotten some proper due. And that was an exciting time, because I remember this was coming out a couple of years ago. This was coming out at the exact same time as the Creep Show, the Creep Show from Scream Factory, that beautiful edition that they put out. So yeah, it's like, oh, I had to make sure I had the money for both of those. So, but overall, yeah, I recommend the film. I recommend this edition of it. Hopefully, maybe now it's maybe dropped a little bit in price. Probably not, but like I said, I'm really hoping that now we're going to get more of the Vestron collection. But really, let's go for the reduced prices. You know, I think a lot of people just, you know, I think also too, a lot of it had to do with their selections. I think a lot of people were like, really, you want me to pay like $35 for Chud 2, Bud the Chud? I actually like Chud 2, but that's besides the point. But you know, I think so. So hopefully we're gonna, you know, hopefully we'll start seeing more coming from Vestron collection. And like I said, hopefully great prices, and we can really get more of these films out and really build up our collection. So anyway, I knew I was going to do this. I knew the video was going to be too long. I knew I was talking about this. I knew I was going to run at the mouth. I'm really sorry about such a long video, everyone. For anybody who took the time to watch all of this, I thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed the video, even though as freaking long as it is. If you did, please leave it a like. If you haven't already, go ahead and please subscribe to the Body Bags channel. There's a different review every day of the week. I'm the Friday reviewer. We got great guys. Everybody's doing really good stuff. And that's it. So enjoy the rest of the label week. And that's it. I said more than enough. So everybody, have a good night. Take care. I'll see you later.